Unveiling the shocking 5 minutes in heaven, what Jesus revealed about the afterlife. The air felt electric. Something monumental was about to unfold, twisting the very fabric of reality. In a small town, a woman named Mary had an experience that would rock belief systems to their core. Just moments before, she was battling a mundane Tuesday morning when her heart stopped, thrusting her into the enigmatic realms beyond. 5 minutes, just 5, separated her from life as she knew it, and in those fleeting moments, she stood before the most radiant figure imaginable, Jesus. His eyes sparkled with an intensity that melted her fears away, but what he revealed left her trembling in awe and disbelief. Bright colors swirled around her. The walls of her hospital room faded into a kaleidoscope of bright oranges and deep blues. Ethereal whispers hung in the air, echoing like a symphony of hope. She barely recognized the sounds as laughter and joy echoed around her, enveloping her in a warm embrace. The usual sterile environment of the emergency room transformed into a realm that pulsed with life and purpose, overwhelming her senses. This was unlike anything she had ever felt. She saw people known and unknown surrounding her with glowing faces, each one radiating an unearthly essence. Mary remembered the pain, the ache in her chest replaced by weightlessness. Just then, as if responding to her deepest thoughts, Jesus leaned in, his voice tender yet powerful. "Your time isn't over," he whispered. "You've got so much yet to do." Before she could question him, he expanded on a truth that rattled her bones. Heaven wasn't an escape, it was an opportunity, an invitation to go back and live life fully. The gravity of these words constricted her chest, making her heart race like thunder in her ears. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But just as swiftly as it began, the vision faded. Mary gasped as the weight of her body slammed back into reality. Monitors beeped frantically, and she began to doubt if it had all been a dream. Then she remembered. Images flooded back, colors, sounds, the echoes of heavenly laughter. It was real, wasn't it? Her heart raced as the memories intertwined with her new purpose. What did it all mean? And was it truly a second chance, or was something darker lurking beneath the surface of this divine revelation? Questions swirled in her mind as she realized that returning to her life was just the beginning. What would she do with this extraordinary gift? Mary's eyes fluttered open, taking in the stark surroundings of the hospital room. The rhythmic beeping of machines, the antiseptic smell, it all felt alarmingly real. Yet, the memory of Jesus lingered in her thoughts, vivid and powerful. She sat up slowly, each movement reminding her of the fragility of life. Her nurse, a kind-faced woman named Susan, rushed in. "Mary! You're awake! Thank God! Did I really see him?" Mary whispered, a tremor in her voice. Susan paused, a bewildered expression crossing her face. "Who, dear?" Jesus, the name escaped her lips like a prayer. The nurse's eyes widened, but she took a deep breath. Some patients have vivid experiences when they're close to death. It's normal. Normal? Mary challenged, her heart racing at the dismissal. It felt too real. He said, "I have things to do. Important things." A flicker of concern crossed Susan's face. "You should rest. We can talk about this later." But Mary was no longer listening. Something deep inside her ignited. This wasn't just a dream or delusion. She had a purpose. As she sat there, fumbling with the edge of her hospital gown, a heavy weight settled in the pit of her stomach. What had she seen? What had she felt? It rushed back like a tidal wave: colors, laughter, warmth, but there was one detail that gnawed at her, the sense that not everything in heaven was blissful. A shadow brushed against that radiant light, something that frightened her. After a few hours, she was cleared to leave. The doctor informed her that her heart was back to normal, but the feeling of anxiety tightened her chest as she thought of the world waiting outside. Would she see things differently now? As she stepped onto the sidewalk, a gust of wind whipped through her hair. It felt alive, breathing new life into her weary body. She glanced at her phone. She had dozens of missed calls and texts. Friends and family worried, they had thought she'd never wake up. She decided to visit the local cafe, a familiar haunt that had been her refuge for years. As she entered, the bell over the door chimed cheerfully, but the bustle didn't comfort her. Instead, it felt stifling, almost suffocating with its banality. "Mary!" A voice called out. It was her friend Lisa, looking relieved yet curious. "You scared everyone. How are you?" "I'm not sure yet," Mary began, sipping her coffee. The warmth spread through her, but it wasn't tea, just the drink. It was the rising need to share her experience, her truth. Over the next table, a group of men laughed loudly, the raucous noise twisting her stomach. Suddenly, one of them caught her gaze. His laughter faded, replaced by a look of recognition. "Mary?" he called, standing up. A chill raced down her spine as she realized who it was. David, an old high school friend, someone with a past tightly interwoven with her own. There was something troubling in his eyes, a hint of darkness that echoed the feelings she had in heaven. "Do you know why you're back?" he asked, stepping closer. Mary's heart pounded. His face was too familiar, yet it felt alien. Behind him stood shadows, just at the edge of her perception, dark clouds in an otherwise sunny day. "What do you mean?" she replied, suddenly feeling the weight of her own words. David leaned in, lowering his voice. "You have to understand, Mary, there are forces at play. It's not just about your second chance." Her skin prickled. What did he know? What did he want? And just like that, the room seemed to tilt. Were the shadows growing closer? Questions flooded her mind. Had her revelations been a blessing or an omen? What was waiting for her in the world she returned to? Tomorrow, she would seek answers. But tonight, the shadows loomed larger as David's cryptic words echoed in her mind. What other truths had she yet to unveil? The cafe felt like a pit of serpents, slithering around Mary as she grappled with David's words. With every fleeting laugh and cheer, she sensed the shadows nudging closer, their presence thickening the air. It was as if they had a life of their own, pulsating with secrets she didn't yet understand. "Mary?" Lisa's voice broke through the haze that encased her mind. "Are you okay?" Concern lined her friend's brow. "Yeah, I'll be fine," Mary stammered, forcing a smile. But the truth was, the shadows were weighing on her. Why had she returned? What did David mean by forces at play? David leaned back slightly, watching her with an intensity that set her on edge. An uneasy silence filled the space between them, the cafe noises morphing into a dull roar. She could feel the eyes of the people around her, glancing her way, sensing the spark of something odd. "Let us get out of here," David finally said, his voice low, tugging at her arm gently. "I can show you things. Things you need to see." Against her better judgment, curiosity wormed its way into Mary's thoughts, pulling her alone. She needed to understand this, to grasp the reality of her newfound purpose. She nodded, rising from her chair. Once outside, the sun cast glaring rays down on them. David led the way to a deserted alley, the sounds of the cafe fading behind them. The shadows were still there, creeping along the edges of her vision, but they weren't alone anymore. She sensed movement, someone lurking just out of sight. "Mary, listen," David began, his voice trembling slightly. "You saw him for a reason. But you also caught a glimpse of what exists on the other side. It's not just love and light. There's a conflict, a battle, and you're a part of it." "What do you mean?" The confidence in her voice faltered. Every muscle in her body tightened, her instincts screamed for her to be careful. "There are those who want to keep the truth hidden. They want to control what happens next. You were called back because there's something you must do, something only you can do." Fear washed over her, thick like the humidity in the air. "But I'm just me. I don't understand any of this." A loud shattering noise echoed from the mouth of the alley, drawing their attention. Heart racing, Mary turned just as a figure stepped into view, a woman, cloaked in shadows, face obscured. She felt a chill creep through her veins, an instinct screaming that this wasn't just a stranger. "David," Mary whispered, a tremor in her voice, "who is she?" "Get back!" he shouted, stepping in front of her. "Don't let her in your head." Mary's breathing quickened, panic flaring. Was this the force David spoke of? The energy of darkness? As the woman advanced, the shadows flickered around her, swirling like a storm. An overwhelming tide of dread washed over Mary. It felt all too familiar, as if she had confronted this malevolence in her brief glimpse of heaven. "Your time isn't done, Mary," the woman crooned, her voice laced with twisted comfort. "You've only just begun to understand your role. You think you're free, but you are not. We are watching you, always." In an instant, warmth surged through Mary, a spark of hope igniting her defiance. "I know I have a purpose," she shouted, surprising even herself at the strength of her voice. The woman smirked, shadows coiling around her like serpents. "We shall see if you can fulfill it." With that, she vanished into the surrounding darkness, leaving behind an unsettling silence that echoed in the alley. Mary faced David, breaths coming raggedly. "What was that? What does she want from me?" David's face was pale, eyes wide with something she didn't recognize, a mix of fear and desperation. "It's just the beginning, Mary. They're not going to let you go that easily." As uncertainty gnawed at her gut, Mary understood one thing clearly: the battle was far from over. Tomorrow, she had to seek answers, not just about her purpose, but the shadowy forces that threatened her very existence. What other chilling truths lay ahead? The clock was ticking. The day came too quickly, wrapping around Mary like a heavy fog. The shadows still lingered, a constant reminder of the encounter in the alley. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were looming closer, always watching, poised to strike. Each glance in the mirror revealed the tension etched into her features, the unease in her own eyes haunting her. She paced her small apartment, the walls closing in on her as the clock ticked loudly, each second stretching like a rubber band ready to snap. David's words echoed in her mind, "You're part of a battle." But for what? She had spent her life painting in broad strokes, living in the mundane. No battles, no dark forces. Just ordinary moments that now seemed tainted by an unfathomable purpose. She grabbed her phone, her fingers hesitated above the screen. Who could she turn to? Lisa? No, she couldn't burden her friend with this madness. David would be her only source of truth. With a deep breath, she texted him, desperate for answers. "Just a few words, I need to talk. Now." Minutes felt like hours. When David finally arrived, he looked worse than before, eyes lined with worry. "What's wrong?" he asked, stepping inside, his voice a whisper. She shut the door behind him, sensing the need for privacy. That woman, what was she? And why me? A tense silence hung between them. David hesitated, his gaze darting away. "I wish I had all the answers, Mary. What I do know is that she is a part of a collective. They thrive on fear. They want to keep you in the dark about what's really at stake." Mary swallowed hard, fighting the nausea building in her stomach. "But what do they want?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling under the surface. "To control the truth. If they can snuff out the light, they can twist reality, yours and everyone else's. You saw something they don't want you to remember. Since when do I have such significant memories?" The sarcasm dripped from her voice, but deep down, a flicker of indignation lit within her soul. What was there that ancient darkness could possibly want from someone like her? Because you were meant to see it. When you fell away from their grips, something wasn't finished. And that woman made sure you knew it. We need to find out what specifically you saw. You may hold the key. A sense of dread worth its weight in pitch-black fear settled over Mary. And how do we do that? We need to go back. To the cafe. Back? Her heart raced, each beat drumming against her ribs. Are you insane? That place is crawling with bad energy. We were just attacked. Exactly. They'll reveal more if you confront them. You think facing danger will show me answers? David's eyes narrowed, reading the resistance written all over her face. It's the only way. Trust me. You're stronger than this fear. You must believe that. Her instinct screamed against the logic. It felt all wrong, like walking into a storm. Yet, deep down, she sensed that a part of her was yearning for clarity amidst the chaos. What if I end up like that woman? What if I slip away, and they own my mind? They won't own you. Not if you stay grounded in who you are. As she battled her fears, a sudden shiver swept through her. Could this be her purpose? Was it worth the risk? The choice morphed into unsolvable puzzle pieces as every nerve in her reminded her of the danger. The moment lingered, heavy with uncertainty until it broke. Okay, she finally whispered. Let us go to the cafe. But as they stepped out, swirling clouds loomed in the sky, dark and foreboding. Was this merely the beginning, or had they already ignited a fire within the shadow's lair? Little did Mary know, the cafe held surprises more sinister than she could possibly imagine. What David knew, he was not ready to reveal just yet. With her heart pounding, she took one last look at her apartment, wondering if she would ever return. Was she about to walk into a trap or destiny itself? Each moment reverberated with questions left unanswered. What awaited them in the cafe? Only time would tell. The wind howled like a restless spirit as Mary and David set off toward the cafe. Each step felt heavy, concrete underfoot mixed with ephemeral shadows that seemed to stretch and recede. Mary shivered. Was it the chilly breeze, or the gnawing fear rooted in her gut? The cafe loomed ahead, a beacon of trepidation outlined against the stormy sky. In the dim light spilling from its door, people moved about, unaware of the storm blowing in just outside. But for Mary, the world inside was a trap swathed in false safety. What if they're waiting for us? She whispered, her voice laced with doubt. They'll be lurking. You know that. But if we're ever going to get answers, this is where it starts, David said, voice steady but urgent. The bell above the cafe door jingled ominously as they entered. Familiar faces blurred around them, yet every face seemed to wear a mask of indifference or worse, malicious intent. They navigated between tables, hearts beating in sync with the electric tension saturating the air. Find a seat. We need to blend in, David instructed, his voice a low murmur. Mary slid into a booth at the back, her heart racing as their surroundings whispered secrets into her ears. The cafe had felt cozy before, but now it was a den of danger. She glanced at David, his eyes narrowed, scanning for threats. The earlier bravado faltered. What if they sense it? Sense me? I promise, I won't let them take you. His grip on her hand tightened, grounding, but there was something slightly off in his demeanor, a flicker of doubt hidden beneath his resolve. Mary inhaled deeply, trying to quell the bubble of anxiety swelling inside. Everything she had once known felt like a haunting memory licking at the edges of her consciousness, fiery and relentless. Then, from the corner of her eye, she spotted the woman from the alley. Her heart leapt, pounding in an unrelenting rhythm. The same unkempt hair, that piercing gaze. Only now she held a cup of coffee, nonchalant, as if she hadn't been the catalyst of Mary's unraveling. Was she even real? Or just an apparition of fear? Before Mary could blink, the woman turned, staring right at her with eyes that glinted like shards of glass. Mary, they're coming, the woman hissed under her breath, then abruptly turned away, sliding into the shadows. What did she say? David leaned forward, urgency in his tone. She said they're coming, Mary breathed, her heart hammering wildly. We have to get out. Now. David seized her arm, his voice a whispering command. But before they could slip away, a ripple of energy danced through the cafe. Dark figures emerged from the back, cloaked, ominous shapes, shadows given form, evoking instinctive dread. Murmurs erupted. Run! David shouted, but Mary felt frozen, eyes locked on their dark eyes. Immense fear wrapped around her, cold and suffocating. What did the woman know? What truths lay hidden in the depths of her mind? Suddenly, the figures converged, moving like predatory wolves closing in on prey. Mary felt her pulse quicken to a frantic crescendo. David! She cried out, yet he was already pushing her toward the door, urgency written all over him, but the cafe was no longer just a cafe. It had become a battlefield of the unseen, echoes of a war she never wanted to fight. It just when Mary thought she could escape, the ground trembled beneath her, the walls closing in. A voice echoed through the chaos, a sultry whisper barely audible. "You think you can run from your memories, Mary?" Shock coursed through her. Whose voice was that? What memories? Would she ever truly escape? "What have you seen?" The shadows whispered, a collective questioning that seemed to shake the very fabric of reality. Mary stood on the precipice of discovery, heart pounding against her ribs, mind racing to keep pace. What truth awaited her? Would she be strong enough to confront it? As darkness sharpened, and choices closed in like a trap, she realized this was only the beginning. What would happen when she finally faced the horrors lurking within her own mind? The answers loomed, just out of reach. The cafe pulsated with a charged silence, each heartbeat echoing loudly in Mary's ears. The cloaked figures moved fluidly, their intentions unreadable, yet the dark aura surrounding them seemed to pulse with malevolence. Fear anchored her feet to the floor, but as David's panicked expression pierced through her haze, instinct kicked in. "We have to go," he urged again, pulling her forcefully. As he dragged her towards the exit, adrenaline surged like fire through her veins, propelling her forward. And yet, the shadows seemed to stretch, wrapping around her, whispering secrets in voices she couldn't comprehend. They slithered closer, their presence a suffocating blanket of terror. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, distracting her from the urgency. Then she saw him. A figure standing at the door, blocking their escape. His face was hidden below a heavy hood, but even from a distance, she felt the weight of his gaze. It was like he was peeling back the layers of her soul, exposing her vulnerabilities. "Let us try the back," she gasped, pointing to a narrow hallway that led to the kitchens. David nodded, fear etched on his features, and they bolted in that direction. As they dashed past tables, Mary could feel the probing eyes of patrons, fascinated, horrified, voyeuristic. The air was thick with tension, like a taut string ready to snap. They rounded the corner, barely squeezing into the dimly lit kitchen area. The sound of clattering dishes matched the racing of her heart. The chaos behind them shifted, voices growing louder, more insistent. They could feel the presence following, as if it saw right through the door. "We can't stay here," David whispered urgently, glancing back towards the entrance. His eyes were wide with panic. Mary searched for another exit. An emergency door to the side caught her eye. "There. We can get out through there." She pointed, relief flooding through her as they rushed to it, but before they could reach it, the door burst open, revealing the cloaked figure from before. His eyes glinted darkly, a wicked smile spreading across his features. "You think escaping is that easy?" he taunted, his voice low and chilling. "Run!" David shouted, grabbing Mary's hand again. They pivoted, the urgency of his grip not just pulling her but commanding her to act. They veered back into the dining area, eyes darting, searching for a way out. The dark figures were everywhere now, the shadows morphing into fully formed bodies. Mary's breath hitched, a lump forming in her throat. The walls felt like they were closing in, yet something in her stirred a yearning for truth, for clarity amidst chaos. "David," she murmured, trying to convey her rising realization. "I need to know why they are after me." He squeezed her hand, a motion both reassuring and desperate. "Not now. We must escape first." But the words hung heavy in the air, a truth she couldn't ignore. The confrontation felt inevitable, as if a part of her craved it. Her legs moved before she could think, steering her toward a booth shadowed by darkness. "We can hide here," she whispered, pulling David beside her as they slunk down. The cafe buzzed with nervous energy. Patrons started to panic, murmuring among themselves, eyes darting toward the figures that prowled the space like predators. But some were smiling. Smiling and watching, as if all of this was entertainment, a grotesque spectacle. "Mary!" David hissed, pulling her attention back to the front. The cloaked figure had moved closer, standing ominously before another booth. An unsettling calm washed over him, and he raised a hand, gesturing towards her. "Mary, the time has come. You can't run from yourself." A jolt of fear struck through her. Was this really about her, or was it something bigger? Suddenly, the woman from the alley materialized again, materializing from the shadows, with urgency flashing in her eyes. "You need to remember," she pleaded. Memories began to swirl in Marius' mind, fragmented images flashing past like a movie reel, faces, echoes of laughter, screams, and pain. Each piece deeper than the last. What does she mean? Mary felt herself tremble, confusion warping into clarity. The darkness around them stirred, and Mary realized just how deep this rabbit hole went. She was on the brink of a revelation, one that could change everything. The woman's voice cut through the chaos. "You don't know the truth. But you must find it." As the shadows lunged toward them, her heart raced. The weight of her past bore down, clamoring for release. Would she dare confront these memories? Or would it swallow her whole? With the darkness closing in, she realized the moment had come. She would either stumble into freedom or fall deeper into madness. What awaited her in the abyss of her own mind? Was facing the truth still an option or an illusion? David's grip tightened as he exchanged frantic looks with Mary, a silent plea woven in the desperation of his eyes. Time slowed, each tick of the clock hanging in the cafe felt like a judgment. The cloaked figure advanced, the shadows around him rippling with an otherworldly energy that sent chills down Marius' spine. She could feel the fear radiating off David, sharp and painful, echoing her own. The woman from the alley moved closer, her features flickering in and out of the gloom. "Mary, listen," she called, her voice urgent and almost haunting. "The answers are within you. You must remember what you've lost." Mary felt the panic swell. What had she lost? The question spun through her mind like a tornado, tearing through her consciousness. Just as she opened her mouth to protest, the cafe erupted into chaos. A beer bottle shattered against the wall nearby. Glass exploded, sending patrons ducking for cover as the shadowy figures moved in, deft and swift like predators zeroing in on their prey. David pulled her deeper behind the booth, but it felt futile. Shadows surrounded them, creeping closer with every heartbeat. "That woman," Mary whispered, trying to focus through the paralyzing fear. "Is she one of them? Or am I part of this? I don't know." David hissed back, his eyes darting around, searching for any sign of a safe escape. "But we need to keep moving." Ignoring the instinct to flee, Mary's mind fixated on the woman's words. There was something familiar in her eyes, a connection that sparked faint memories, whispers of laughter, echoes of a time before. A misplaced phantom of comfort within a storm of dread. "David," she urged, her voice steadier now. "If we can figure out what is happening, maybe we can stop it. Maybe we can find a way out." Before David could respond, a piercing scream erupted from the crowd. Someone had been caught in the grip of darkness, the shadows pulling them into a swirling void. It triggered something primal in Mary. She could feel her heart racing, desperation clawing at her insides. "Stay close," David urged, pulling her towards the edge of the booth just as shadowy figures lunged. The woman from the alley appeared again, her eyes fierce, locking onto Mary's. "Look at me," she demanded, her voice slicing through the panic, stealing focus. "You know more than you think. Remember the laughter, remember the pain. It's your only way to survive." Mary's breath caught in her throat. Images flooded her mind, the warmth of the sun, the smell of wildflowers, which warped unexpectedly into darker memories of betrayal, of loss. Shadows were not merely surrounding her, they clung to her, like the ghosts of her past refusing to let go. "Get out!" David shouted, pushing her forward. The chaos intensified around them, bodies colliding, panic escalating into an unbearable wave. "Mary!" The woman's voice faded as the dark figure advanced closer, his chilling presence almost tangible, smothering the last remnants of hope. With a surge of clarity, Mary felt something awaken inside her, an agonizing but familiar pain. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, drawing on the warmth of those lost memories, letting them envelop her like a protective shield. "David," she whispered, fear slipping into resolve. "I think I know where to go." Just as she turned to grab David's hand, a sharp crack filled the air. The front door crashed open, revealing a blinding shaft of light that pierced through the cloak of night. She could see freedom glimmering beyond the threshold, but darkness snarled behind them, relentless and vicious. They had to move, but the path was littered with shadows clawing at their heels. "Go!" David urged, shoving her toward the light. As they sprinted forward, thoughts raced through her mind. Would they emerge unscathed? Or would the shadows drag them back to face an inevitable truth? With the bright light drawing closer, Mary's heart surged with a new urgency. A single thought crystallized in her mind: sometimes one must confront the darkness to find true light. They were seconds away from escape when the cloaked figure lunged forward, snarling. "You cannot escape your fate." The words chilled her, but determination burned hotter. Freedom was just within reach. And then, as they burst into that light, the world shifted around them. Was this truly the way out, or merely another trap? What awaited them beyond that blinding beacon? Could the answer she sought lie just beyond sight, waiting for her to take the final leap? The light engulfed them, bright and blinding, swallowing tenebrous fears whole. Mary pushed through it, heart pounding against her ribs like a frantic caged bird. David's hand, warm and solid, felt like a lifeline. The terrifying visions of shadows clawing at their heels dimmed, replaced by a sudden stillness. As they stumbled from the light, they found themselves in an eerily quiet street. The air tasted fresh, tinged with something sweet and almost floral. It was surreal, like stepping from chaos into a serene dream. Mary glanced at David, confusion etched across his face. "Where are we?" I don't know," he admitted, looking around. They stood in a small town square bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The buildings, quaint and cobbled, looked untouched by time, an oasis free from the menacing shadows they had fled. "Is this salvation?" Mary's voice trembled with uncertainty. Before David could answer, the woman from the alley appeared again, her figure emerging from the shadows with purpose. "Welcome," she said, her expression softened, almost maternal. "You are safe for now." "Safe?" David echoed, his skepticism evident. "Why do you keep appearing? What do you want from us?" The woman's gaze steadied on them, an intensity that could shatter glass. "You are not free yet. This town lies in a fragile state," she explained, her voice steady with authority. "It exists between worlds, where darkness and light wage a constant war." "War?" Mary shivered. "Are the shadows here too?" "Indeed," she affirmed. "They come searching for you, for what you carry inside." Mary's heart plummeted. What did she carry? The memories of laughter and pain? Or something deeper tied to the shadow's pursuit? She felt a sudden rush of nausea, a tightening knot in her chest. "You mean, what I lost?" The woman nodded slowly, her expression turning serious. "Embrace your truth, Mary. Only through understanding can you face what comes next. You must find the lost pieces of yourself before the darkness does." "Just like that?" David sneered, his protective instincts flaring. "We can't just waltz into darkness. We barely escaped." "Not just pieces," the woman interjected, her voice becoming almost a whisper. "Memories. They hold power, your power. But," she hesitated, "they can also awaken your ancient fears." Mary glanced toward David, uncertainty flooding her veins. Could she bear the truth of her past? The shadows, the screams, and everything that had led her to this moment twisted within her. Could she face the darkness inside before it consumed her? Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the square, filling the air with a murky stillness. The temperature dropped, turning her breath into white puffs. David shuddered beside her. "What was that?" "The darkness never rests," the woman warned, eyes darting to the edges of the square. A low growl surrounded them, a sound unlike any animal she'd ever heard. It vibrated against her bones, urging her to feel an ancient alarm ringing in her soul. The shadows were moving, undulating, as if hunting for them. "Do you want to know the truth now?" the woman asked pointedly, a challenge hidden beneath her calm facade. "Or are you ready to surrender to despair?" The choice lay heavy on Mary's shoulders. Could she risk losing herself forever, or face the unbearable agony of the past? David, she said softly, her heart racing. I don't think we have a choice. His eyes mirrored her own fear, but beneath it, a flicker of resolve ignited. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. As darkness crept closer, tendrils reaching for them, Mary felt the flickering flame of her spirit respond. I'll confront it, she said fiercely, locking eyes with David. Together. With those words, shadows surged forward, ethereal and sinister, promising to unravel their every hope. The battle was about to begin, and the stakes had never been so high. Could they conquer the shadows within and emerge reborn, or would the darkness shatter their fate and pull them into eternal oblivion? The looming question hung heavy in the air, marking the beginning of a merciless reckoning. The shadows inched closer, whispering secrets and weaving darkness around Mary and David. The air thickened, each breath became harder, as if the very fabric of this fragile refuge strained against the encroaching dread. Stay close, David hissed, gripping Mary's hand tighter. Whatever happens, don't let go. The woman's gaze pierced through the swirling dark, her confidence unwavering. You are stronger than you know. Focus on what you've lost, Mary. Each memory holds a key. You must not falter now. A deep rumbling emanated from the depths of the square, like a monstrous heartbeat battling against the silence. Mary felt an electric pulse coursing through her veins, filled with both fear and determination. The shadows seemed to flicker in response to her thoughts, an awful ballet of light and dark, inviting and menacing. What does she mean, pieces of yourself? David whispered, urgency lacing his tone. How do we find those? It's my past, Mary stammered, the weight of buried memories crashing into her like waves against a rocky shore. There are so many things I've tried to forget. I don't know if I can face them again. Then we'll find another way, David said, his voice trembling yet resolute, but before Mary could argue, the darkness surged, a tide of despair rushing towards them. The woman stepped forward, her eyes alight with a strange fire. You must unleash the truth within you. Only then can you cast the darkness away. Emboldened but terrified, Mary summoned her inner strength, reaching into the depths of her memory. Faces flickered through her mind like a movie on fast forward, her childhood dog, the laughter of friends, the warmth of summer days, but then the darker images edged in tears, loss, betrayal that sliced her gut like a sharp knife. What was that? David exclaimed, and Mary could feel the shadows quaking in sync with her surge of emotional turmoil. The low growl intensified, echoing her vulnerability like a predator that savored the scent of fear. You have to confront them, Mary. The woman encouraged, urgency surging under her steady facade. Every piece you claim returns strength. Taking a deep breath, Mary closed her eyes against the onslaught of emotion. If I face this darkness, I might lose everything, she whispered, unguarded. Or you might gain everything, the woman replied, her voice insistent. But you won't know unless you fight. There was no time for hesitation. Mary forced herself to remember. A flood of images rushed in, her little brother's laughter now twisted into haunting cries, her mother's rejection, and the shattering of once unbreakable bonds. Each memory ignited a spark inside her, a potent reminder of the terror she had faced. The air crackled as the shadows recoiled, shifting back slightly as if sensing her rising strength. Mary's heart raced, she could feel the dark tension warring against her light. Together! David shouted, his voice echoing powerfully in the twilight. We're with you! He squeezed her hand, pouring his unwavering support into her. The warmth from his palm ignited a blaze of courage that shot through her spine. Her eyes snapped open, filled with fierce resolve. I'm done running, she proclaimed, her voice resonating with newfound depth. I won't let you overwhelm me. With those words, the shadows writhed violently, letting out a chilling chorus of wails, voices that twisted sorrow and anger, threats reverberating through the night. The square began to crack around them, the cobbled stones shifting beneath their feet. It felt like standing on the edge of a precipice. You've awakened something. The woman warned, her tone urgent. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, an avalanche of darkness ready to engulf them, hungry for despair. Hold on. David urged, and they braced themselves, standing firm in the face of the roaring black tide that aimed to pull them under. This was only the beginning, and as the darkness surged toward them, Mary realized the battle for her very soul was only just starting. Could they withstand the onslaught, or would the shadows finally claim her? Would her memories crack open the door to healing or surrender her to an even deeper darkness? The outcome hung precariously, a thread stretched to its limit, about to snap. The darkness roared, threatening to envelop Mary and David in a void of despair. Every ounce of fear gripped her heart as the shadows surged like an angry tide, but amid that chaos, she felt a flicker of strength rise from within. David's hand remained tightly clasped around hers, a lifeline anchoring her amidst the storm. Together! The word reverberated between them, stealing a sizzling breath from the swirling gloom. Each heartbeat felt like a drumbeat of defiance. Mary focused hard, forcing her mind to sift through her lost memories. The moments of joy nestled among her fears. The laughter of her brother echoed faintly, mingled with the warmth of summer sun. She recalled baking cookies with her mother, the rich scent of vanilla and chocolate filling their home. It was a snapshot of love, fleeting but ever present, but then came the shadows' piercing cries of betrayal, the aching isolation after heartbreak. These memories came rushing back like waves, threatening to crash against her spirit. "You are nothing without us," the shadows hissed, darting closer. "No!" Mary shrieked, her voice cutting through the noise like a shining blade. "I am not defined by my pain. I can rise above you." And with those words, something shifted. A brilliant light ignited within her, bursting forth like a flame. The shadows recoiled, hissing with anguish as if stung by the brilliance of truth. "Mary, you're doing it!" David shouted, his eyes wide with awe and encouragement. He raised their linked hands, the light pulsing between them, illuminating the darkness that had ruled for so long. "Fight! We're right here!" As if fueled by their united spirit, memories continued to unfurl around them, vivid and raw. Faces encroached into her mind, friends lost to time, laughter bitterly cut from their lives, but now, those warm moments wove together with sorrow, forging a tapestry of resilience. From pain comes strength. Mary shouted, her voice rising above the turmoil. "I carry my past with me, and it gives me power." With every claim she made over her pain, each connection rekindled within her, the shadows lost their grip. The dark figures, once menacing and resolute, faltered and fell back, whispers of uncertainty eroding their self-assurance. "It's time!" The woman from the alley urged, stepping into the light's embrace, her expression sullen yet proud. "Now! Let the light free you!" Time blurred, seconds stretching into an eternity as Mary drew the warmth of every sweet memory into her heart. Wrapping it around her feelings, she boiled them into a radiant shield. "I embrace every piece of me," she proclaimed fiercely, energy surging around her. In one final, cathartic surge, the shadows recoiled with agonizing shrieks, breaking apart like glass under pressure, scattering into shimmering dust. The cafe, the alley, the weight of dread all lifted, fading away into ethereal nothingness. "We did it!" David cheered, the despair lifted from his features. Reality shifted again, time sweeping them into a new horizon. Her breath released in no more than a softly buoyant sigh as vibrant sunlight poured in, enveloping them like a fragrant embrace. They stood in a flower-filled meadow, butterflies dancing in the air, warmth bathing their skin. "I can't believe it," Mary breathed, her heart swelling with relief. The shadows were gone, replaced by beauty and freedom. The woman smiled gently, gliding closer. "You have faced the abyss within, and emerged stronger. And yet, your journey is not over. The battle may rest, but knowledge waits eagerly. You must share your story." "I will," Mary promised, determination blooming within her. "I'll help others find their own light." David nodded in agreement, fiery resolve in his eyes. "We're in this together. Always." With one last glance around the meadow, the weight of the past melted like snow in spring. The sun's rays felt like promises of tomorrow. "Thank you," Mary whispered to the woman, appreciation shining through her heart. The woman merely inclined her head, receding into the light with a knowing smile. "Goodbye, shadows," Mary called, her laughter pealing against the serene backdrop. It felt brighter, lighter than anything she had known. This was her second chance, her opportunity to live fully, not as a victim of pain, but as a conqueror of her own fears. With David by her side, arm in arm, they stepped forward into the shimmering unknown. Together, they would illuminate a path for others to follow, showing them that beyond even the darkest shadows lies a promise of hope and healing. As they walked into the brilliant horizon, the future ahead felt alive with possibilities, and this time, Mary was ready to embrace every moment. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to catch more stories like this. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for the journey ahead. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the light. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. And for the love of adventures, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this closure. This is the moment to connect and be part of our growing family. Your energy fuels us. Let us light up this platform together.